Hi, I'm Cat Kucia, head teacher of Jubilee Park Primary School in Newport. It's a real privilege to be able to share with you my leadership journey, and as you can see on the screen there, igniting a passion for learning throughout the Jubilee Park community. It's a real honour to be asked by the GTCS to provide this provocation, and first and foremost is because I have actually got Scottish blood in me. My nana migrated in those days from Scotland to Wales in the 60s, and very proud of my Scottish roots. So a little bit about me. I was educated in Newport in South Wales, and I still live in Newport in South Wales. I did a psychology degree, which really sort of started off my passion for learning, I suppose I'd say, because it helped me develop that understanding of learning. After 4 years of teaching, I became a deputy of a large primary school and spent 11 years as a deputy head, really learning my craft, working for Welsh Government in various advisory capacities. And then in September 2017, I had the most amazing opportunity to open a brand new school on a brand new growing community in Newport. So here's my school, Jubilee Park. It is a wonderful place to be, and it's a wonderful place to ignite that passion for learning. Just to provide you with some context, we opened in September 2017 on a growing school basis. We started with 116 pupils and 16 staff, and we're now nearly at capacity with 370 pupils and over 50 staff. So we've had a real rapid growth over the last 4 years. And I suppose what I want to share with you is the journey that we've been on since September 2017. And the mantra has always been, it's about process, not product. From the start, I really wanted to challenge thinking, and I wanted to build the school based on the national reform agenda in Wales, with learning at the heart of what we do. I wanted to start to challenge thinking and really change the rhetoric in education. It's really important to say we weren't part of the pioneer group of schools within Wales at the time, but actually we just wanted to try something, and we wanted to try and really make sure that learning was at the heart of everything that we do. You'll hear me talk a lot in this session around our school being a learning organisation, and it often sounds strange saying that schools are learning organisations and they're focused on learning, but a lot of the time schools are not focused on learning, and they're focused, in my opinion, on the wrong things. So for me, opening Jubilee Park was the real potential to be brave. It was the potential to try things out, and it was the potential to focus on the leadership of learning. So where did we start? We started really with our vision principles. When I opened the school, I didn't want a vision statement that would sit on the computer on the website or sit in a prospectus and not mean anything, that wasn't lived and breathed by our school community. So with our school community at the time, we established our 3 vision principles that you can see on the screen: igniting a passion for learning, creating the conditions to thrive, and growing together with the community. These 3 vision principles really do guide everything that we do in our school. We live and breathe them. Alongside those, we also have our mission statement, which is inspire, nurture, and celebrate success. And again, everything that we do goes back to those 4 words: to inspire our children and our staff, to nurture our children and our staff and our community, and to celebrate the success together. Then you can see those cogs all working together. And for me, there is no point having a vision and vision principles that just sit there doing nothing. They have to be actively working alongside curriculum development and professional learning. To be able to translate that vision into school improvement, we need our staff to be highly trained and highly professional, and we also need to provide them with that agency to develop a curriculum fit for the children within our school. So this goes back to the mantra, process over product. For me, it's not about creating a shiny product or creating this end goal of being excellent and wonderful. It's actually about the process of learning that happens along the way. I'm very focused on strategy and planning, and we really do spend a lot of time looking at national policy drivers within Wales and how they can influence our school level culture. For me, that's really important because culture drives behaviours and behaviours drive actions. And if we really want collective action and to enable agency and efficacy with our staff, we need to develop that culture. So part of developing the culture has been looking at the national policy objectives that you can see on the screen here. So we have the school as a learning organisation model, we have our national mission, and we have the curriculum for Wales. At times you can feel, as a head teacher, you can feel a bit bombarded by all of these things that are put on you from a national perspective. But I really don't see it like this. I see it as a way of dissecting this information, pulling out what is the best and what I need to focus on as a head teacher for my school, and or focus on improving and driving that culture of learning. So to be able to integrate the standards, and particularly looking at the teaching standards in our school, we really focused on how can we develop culture and translate that national policy. So what you can see on the screen here is come from the Learning Partnership Wales, who were commissioned by Welsh Government to develop what they call a culture of learning. This was based upon the philosophies and the key principles of the foundation phase in Wales, but also child development. And it's been realigned to support those expectations of child development from 3 to 16 in line with our new curriculum for Wales. It's actually based upon the work of Ron Rickard at Harvard Project Zero, who developed the 8 cultural forces which define our classrooms. And this concept has great synergy with the School as a Learning Organisation model, and also provides opportunity for us to take those national policies and realise it in a tangible way. So we start to unpick as a school, what do we mean by our culture for learning? For me, first and foremost, it's about building those relationships. And the only way we can build those relationships for learning is by having strong professional learning within the school for all of our staff, making sure that we're providing that agency for our staff to make key decisions, but also supporting them so that they understand how and why to make decisions. We create an environment for learning in our school. This is not just about what happens in the classrooms, but across the whole school as well. How do we build that environment that's focused on learning? And for me, it's about those relationships, but it's also making sure that we continually improve and focus on learning. We have a language of learning within our school. We have a metacognitive language of learning that we work with our children on, and we share with our children what the metacognitive words mean for things like resilience, being self-aware, putting effort into their work, and modelling all of that learning constantly with our children so that we're able to engage them in being learners of the future. We do have high expectations as a school, and we have a lot of routines for learning, but I suppose one of the key parts for us is about making time, making sure we're not on this rat race of ticking things off a list and rushing to finish, but taking time. And we talk a lot about a slowliness to learning within our school. So the words on the screen, are just words. What makes them come alive? And what makes them come alive for me is the strategy and purpose, linking in with professional standards and our staff and our ethics and behaviour. So in terms of our whole school improvement, we talk a lot around these 3 pillars of improvement. Wellbeing, as you can see, is at the top and is central to each of these pillars. It's recognised that these are the platform for curriculum and learning at various levels within our school. So we have our organisational level with the work we do with our cluster, as well as our individual school. We have our practitioner, as in our teams and groups we have within our school, and we have our practitioner as individuals. So one of our whole pillars of school improvement for our school is focused on individuals within our school. All of these 3 things help us to identify the strata and the process of translating policy to practice. It integrates our curriculum design and our reform into school improvement, and it's inclusive of professional learning and performance development within our school. By having a whole a pillar completely focused on individual practitioners, it really relies upon the individuals within our school to be reflective and to actively engage in being professional. And again, this will only happen if we have strong well-being. So within our school, we have a wellbeing strategy, and this underpins the whole of our learning community. You can see there is a lot of a scribble. We're actually in the process of a year-long process of updating our wellbeing strategy. Initially, it's based on the work of Dr. Martin Seligman and his PERMA model. And PERMA stands for the following: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments and achievements. Wellbeing to us are all of those things, with relationships at the heart of everything. Wellbeing is not tokenistic. It's not about having a wellbeing day or PPA at home. It's actually about making sure that we're building a construct within our school for everyone to feel safe and happy and ready to learn. And we use lots of research to inform this strategy. So having wellbeing at the sort of underpinning each of the stages of school improvement is really important to us. We also then translate those 3 pillars into what you can see on the screen here. And this is really important when we start to really consider that leadership for learning and the ethics and the behaviours that sit behind our professional standards. So that first strata was all focused on the organisation as a whole. So we have our vision, we have our whole vision focused on what happens within our school, and that drives the behaviours, particularly of our curriculum, our culture of learning, and how we translate all of the curriculum into action. The second strata you can see there is based upon individuals and groups within our school. Those groups may be our governors, it could be year group teams, it could be our areas of learning experience teams. It's all about people working as teams to self-evaluate so that we know where we are, we can reflect on our strengths and our challenges, and we also can plan for the future. All of that is based on a robust MER cycle, MER being monitoring, evaluation and review, and that links lovely back into our school improvement plan and our school as a learning organisation model. And then for me, this final strata is absolutely key. There is no point in us having a whole view of school improvement based on our vision and our organisation, our self-evaluation and our groups of individuals working together unless we invest in the individuals. So you can see PLD at the top there. That stands for Professional Learning and Development. And we've made a conscious decision as a school to actually include learning and development with that. It's not PL, it's not PD, it's actually both. To enable our professional learning and development to happen, we have our own bespoke curriculum for our school. We also have various professional learning and development processes within school that actually enable professional learning to impact upon each individual. And then you can see right the way along the bottom of all three school improvement pillars is plan, teach and assess. This strategic overview provides those opportunities for staff to do what they do best, to plan, teach and assess. So where did we start with our professional learning and development? And I think this quote from John Hattie really sums it up. Each pupil deserves a great teacher, not by chance, but by design. And I believe my job as the head teacher is to design my staff. It sounds a bit strange, but I think that is true. And the picture you can see on the screen there is my daughter and my deputy head's daughter. And the summer before we actually opened our school, and they were the first two children allowed on our big 3G pitch. And you can see the hard hats on the floor, and off they went and ran. And I look at my daughter, who's now 10. And what do I want for her? I want her to have great teachers. I want her to be challenged and supported to do the best that she can, not to be excellent, not to be the top of the class, but to do the best that she can because she's got highly trained staff supporting her. So our culture of professional learning and development is driven by this idea of us having that notion of designing our staff to be the best that they can be for our children. The words that you can see on the screen there as well then are related to our school improvement plan, and our school improvement plan priorities within our first 2 years of opening really have formed the basis of developing our culture and practices for professional learning and development. They involve the whole of our education profession within our school, but they also include a large steer in terms of leadership. And then why do we do what we do? We design our approach to professional learning and development so that we can support all our staff to thrive. We do this so we can develop the understanding of curriculum for Wales, so we can develop our shared language of learning, and that everything that we talk about then is learning focused. We really have increased our collaborative professional learning, and we spent a lot of time developing our understanding of collaborative professionalism and the work there of Andy Hargreaves and Tom O'Connor, where we can really start to think about how well we are collaborating. And we're developmentally focused. We have no judgments in our school. We've got rid of any type of judgment in terms of excellent, good or satisfactory. And we constantly focus on where we are and where we need to go, how we can be developmentally focused rather than being led by judgments. And all of this relies on us having this open to learning mindset, really making sure that we're looking at the impact of the actions that we have, but really reflecting on ourselves as individuals. And I suppose the first step of us developing our culture for professional learning started with our professional charter. This was co-constructed by all the staff in the school, and it's something that has really helped us to hold each other to account. So at Jubilee Park, to be a professional means that we do all have positive attitudes, that we strive to have high levels of well-being for ourselves and others, that we take responsibility for our own professional learning, but that we also take risks and that we challenge and we celebrate and we work together. And then we also have our professional expectations, and we found as a staff this was really important again, that we are professionals, we're paid in a professional capacity, and that we want to make sure that we're maintaining our high standards of ethics and behaviours. By developing this charter, it isn't just something that is a poster that you see around our school. It really is something that again we live and breathe and that we can hold each other to account on. This all links then to our professional standards, and our professional standards in Wales have been developed over the last couple of years and are very much part of our professional learning culture within our school. The values and dispositions are absolutely key. These are front-facing in the standards, and they're very much focused on all of the bits about being a teacher that doesn't actually come through in terms of the standards. Welsh language and culture is really important to us, making sure that we focus on those key rights for our children. Literacy, numeracy and digital competence. We want all our children to be literate, numerate and digitally competent by the time they leave our school. And I think as well, what we don't forget is that our role as a professional sits within this system. It's really important that all the staff in this school see themselves as a professional learner. I go back to that vision principle of igniting a passion for learning. That is absolutely key. And everyone that comes into this school has to buy into that. They have to see how their role fits into this and their professional entitlement that they get in return. And our professional standards are built around 5 key areas, the biggest being pedagogy, and then moving through we have our leadership, professional learning, innovation and collaboration, which we call our professional practices. Within our school, our professional standards are certainly not a list to be ticked off. They're not about holding people to account and to make sure they're behaving in this way. They're used developmentally and they're used to target and they're used as dialogue. So how do we build that capacity of our learning community? We really focus on the language of the professional standards. Like I said, they're not a tick list. They're not a list of jobs to do. They're there to support our staff to thrive. The way that we do this is by building in performance development. And I say performance development very carefully. In our school, we don't use the term performance management. The main reason being, I don't see my role within this school to manage people. I actually see my role to be there to develop and to support and to encourage my staff to thrive. So we have a performance development policy, which is fully in line with the performance management arrangements for Wales, but actually just using that change of word has had a huge impact on our staff. All of our staff complete an individual self-reflection 3 times a year, and our staff find this really, really difficult, particularly staff that are new to our school and are doing it for the first time, because actually reflection is really hard and reflecting on yourself is even harder. So you can see on the screen here something called a Thrive Index. Each area of the professional standards are highlighted on this Thrive Index, with pedagogy broken down further into refining teaching, advancing learning and influencing learners. What our staff do, and this is both teachers and teaching assistants, is they will self-assess themselves on this scale of 0 to 5. There's no right or wrong in the numbers are arbitrary. The whole point of this is to be a facilitation for discussion. So our staff then will come to a set standard of meetings. They meet with their performance development leaders 3 times a year, and each meeting will start with a discussion on the individual self-reflection on their Thrive Index. Questions like, well, tell me, why have you put yourself as a 2 for pedagogy, refining and teaching? Why have you put yourself as a 3 for influencing learners? What's the difference between the 2? What do you think you need to work on? We always ask the same key questions, which are the following. What impact are you having within each area of the professional standards? And crucially, how do you know? Then that forms a dialogue with our staff about how they're using those standards in their day-to-day practice and how they can see the impact maybe on themselves personally, maybe on their colleagues, but also on their children. We also ask the question, what do you need to do to thrive as a professional? And again, that's a very hard question. That question could be personal. It could be, I need to get a better work-life balance. I need to leave school at 4 o'clock at least once a week, or I need to manage my time at home more effectively. And then we will ask the question, what are your development needs? And that's really focused around areas of pedagogy. And it might be they need some coaching and mentoring in a specific area. They may need to go and observe a colleague. They might need specific professional learning and development in a specific area. All of this feeds into then their performance development, which goes on over the course of an academic year. And why do we do this? Well, we use the professional standards within our school to really support professional dialogue. It helps us to inform dialogue and practice, and it's developmental. We don't have, like I said, a series of lists of standards that we tick off and provide evidence to prove what we're doing as a professional within the school. We will take the standards, we'll talk about them in professional learning sessions, we'll find out what does it actually look like in our school, what does it mean for us? And ultimately, this is developing 2 things. It's developing reflective practice, and it's also developing our staff, which ultimately then improves the outcomes for our children. Within our professional learning culture, we also talk a lot about how we build that capacity for our learning community to thrive. And you can see on the screen a variety of different ways that we do that. Each week we have a professional learning and development sessions. They are not staff meetings. We never ever have a staff meeting in this school. It's always focused on professional learning and development. Any other information that may be traditionally shared in a staff meeting is done via email or, if needed, a quick phone call to somebody. We don't waste professional learning and development time by doing something that can be sent in a memo or an email. We also have a professional learning and development plan, which is linked to our school improvement priorities, and that also identifies that clarity of funding. This year, we've been developing something that's very, very exciting called our collaborative approach to improving practice. I think we're only able to do this at this point in time because we're developing our capacity of our learning community, and we've also building that trust and agency, but we've really moved away from that top-down leadership observing individual staff in lessons. A collaborative approach to improving practice, which means groups of staff come out of class together. They spend time discussing pedagogy and practice, using the standards to formulate dialogue and discussion, and then they go and observe each other. They will then reflect together and provide each other with written feedback on their learning and on their lessons. This has been a huge learning curve for both our staff, our teaching staff, but also for leadership, where they're having to be more of a coach and a mentor in different conversations than actually go in and observe. We have professional learning diaries, and that's for all staff to maintain that learning dialogue so they can look at their progress and the impact that they're having. We also introduced, when we opened, something called our 5-year plan. The reason being is quite often I think professional learning development and individual growth is seen in academic year terms. It's seen as you start in September, you finish in July, but we all know life is not like that. So every year in our school, staff will go to their 5-year plan, reflect on it, add to it, and it's moving away from thinking about themselves as progress in 1 year, but also moving away from the idea of within 5 years' time I want to be a leader. There's a lot more to being a professional than just striving for leadership. So we talk a lot about what does it mean to have a 5-year plan, what type of opportunities can I look for, and how can us as leadership actually support those opportunities and that growth. We also have something called our IPI, our Individual Professional Inquiry, also known as our Passion Projects. We provide time for all of our staff to engage in their individual professional inquiry, and that's something that they're passionate about themselves, that they really want to try and develop. And it gives you some examples. My Year 6 teacher is looking at play in Year 6 and how she can really develop that idea of play in Year 6. We've had other staff looking at outdoor learning. We've had some staff this year, we've had 2 members of staff this year looking at how they can develop their anti-racist curriculum by first of all understanding white privilege and how they can impact upon our anti-racist curriculum with their own sort of combating their own biases within themselves. So very, very different things that we look at in our professional inquiries. But at the end of every year, we have a sharing session where we share the IPIs and talk about what we've learned from them. And I suppose the other thing that has a massive impact for us in terms of professional learning and development within the school has been our reading and research. So every teacher gets 1 hour a fortnight of dedicated reading and research time. That's led by my leader for network learning and research, who organises specific elements of research for staff to engage in. All of these things that you can see on the screen have taken time to develop, but they've also involved really tough decision making. An awful lot of time and funding goes into enabling this to happen. And I suppose as a head teacher, I've had to make those decisions. I've had to make the decision to maybe not have as many teaching assistants, but have teaching assistants that I pay to attend weekly professional learning and development so they're well trained. I would stand by my decision and stand by decision in terms of front loading professional learning funding, because the outcome of that and the output of that has been staff are highly trained and then are able to develop that agency within the system. All of our professional learning policies and practices are underpinned by what we call our professional learning pedagogy. And our professional learning pedagogy is guided by 4 key areas, that being collaboration and really developing that understanding of collaborative professionalism, reflective practice, providing opportunities for all staff to critically and candidly reflect on their practice and being open to reflection from others about how they can improve and develop. Using data and research evidence, that is absolutely key for us. We don't just magic these things out of thin air. A lot of the work that I do has been heavily influenced by the work of Michael Fullen and Andy Hargreaves, by John Hattie and Carol Campbell and Kath Murdoch, to name but a few. And coaching and mentoring. We spent a lot of time investing in coaching and mentoring training and really making sure that we understand the difference between coaching and mentoring, but also understand how they can complement each other in developing reflective practice within our school. All of this enables us then to become a learning organisation. The OECD, who helped work with Welsh Government to set up our school as a learning organisation model, states that a learning organisation is somewhere where the beliefs, values and the norms of employees are brought to bear in support of sustained learning, where a learning atmosphere, a learning culture or a learning climate is nurtured, and where learning to learn is essential for everyone involved. And I really believe that's what we have within our school. We complete what we call our SLO survey. It's a national survey, and we've completed that for the last 3 years, and we've been significantly, consistently high in terms of our results, and we're higher than the Welsh average over the last 3 years as well. And you might say, well, it's okay for you, you're a brand new school. And I would argue back that actually it's a lot harder in a brand new school because you're trying to set up everything. You haven't got a culture established, you have new staff joining all the time. And for us, it's about using this model and using key aspects of this model to really drive our school improvement. The SLO model talks a lot about 4 transversal themes, those being time, trust, technology and thinking together, and they really underpin our school. So how do we take that? How do we move from the process of a school as a learning organisation through to our school improvement planning and making sure that individuals develop and have that agency, and through all of this then keep building that culture of ethics and behaviour? We do this by first of all looking at the SLO survey, and we help to use that information to go into our school improvement plan, our SIP. Through our school improvement plan, we always start with, well, where are we? Why are we doing what we're doing? We don't ask why enough. And I think I read some research the other day actually about children at the age of 6 stop asking why, and we're trying to bring that back for our adults within our school. Why are we doing what we're doing? We then look at how do we build that improvement. So everything is underpinned by self-evaluation and our monitoring, evaluation and review processes, but it's all focused on improvement. It's not focused on accountability. It's not focused on making judgments. It's about language and behaviours. You can only do that when you have the right culture within the school. And I really believe the professional standards has really helped us to develop that culture. All of these processes involve all of our staff, our pupils, our parents, our governors, our school improvement partners, because we recognise that this can't be done in isolation. And we really move in then from that idea of scrutiny to reflection. What happens when we find something that's not as we expect? It's not about telling people off, it's not about criticising, but it's actually about learning from it and how we can build that into our future actions. So for us, the role of leadership in actually making sure that we have high quality professionals within our school is linked to the national frameworks you can see here. So we've got our national mission, our SLO model, the national approach to professional learning and our professional standards. What sits middle of all of that is our curriculum. Our curriculum is part and parcel of everything that we do in our school. It's not just something that happens on a Tuesday afternoon in year 3. It's everything that our school is about. And I suppose this brings back then the importance of that idea of meaningful learning. If I truly want to ignite a passion for learning within my school, I have to make sure that learning is meaningful. I have to make sure that my staff and my children are being innovative, have that idea of creativity, that the staff are selecting that content to enable them to use their professional skills so that they can drive improved learning and outcomes for all of our children. And I think our curriculum in our school only works because our staff are highly trained and have that agency. So what's going well within our school? I think it starts off with that strategy and planning. Absolutely, the strategy and planning has guided everything that we do, and we're focused on these P's that you can see on the screen. Purpose. Why do we do what we do? Our purpose drives everything. Like I said at the beginning, we're focused on process, we're not focused on projects. It's not about an end goal of being excellent, it's about those processes that we learn from along the way. We're heavily focused on progression. Progression and assessment has been a key area of work for us as a school, but really making sure that our children are learning and developing and they have that pace of progression. Pedagogy, making sure our staff know what pedagogy is and they know how they can make the right pedagogical decisions for the right job that they need to do. And all of that is underpinned by highly effective professional learning. All of these words, purpose, process, progression, pedagogy and professional learning, ultimately impact on practice. And we talk a lot in our school about it's not what you do, but it's the why that you do it. And I think for us, that happens because we've got trust. I have to put a lot of trust in my staff, and I'll be honest, that didn't come easy at first. In my first headship, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I've had to learn myself to trust. But I think by doing that and by focusing on learning, by making sure we have a purposeful curriculum design, our children are making progress, our staff are happy, and our staff are learning as well. And that slowness approach to learning has really come through. So for us, our journey as a learning organisation really has focused on the why first. The culture of learning has really helped us to develop and grow as a school, with relationships being key. For me, communication is an absolute. We have to have good communication if we want to develop as a learning organisation, and that comes through the ethics and the behaviours that we expect from our staff, to our community, to our children, and how we also hold each other to account is really important. We do have a purpose, and our purpose is to ensure that our children have that passion for learning through everything that they do, and that they can thrive to basically become the best that they can be in a changing world. Talked about that slowness of learning and not being in a rat race to finish and to tick things off the list. And all of this is underpinned by our school improvement priority and our self-evaluation and MER processes. So again, process over product. We can get bogged down sometimes by that big picture, by national strategy and planning, and with a wide-ranging national reform agenda that we're actually having in Wales at the moment, it can feel like an enormous job to do. But for me, it's really about changing our thinking, not just looking at professional standards or the school as a learning organisation model as something that we have to do and tick off a list, but saying, how brave can I be when I'm looking at these national agendas? We really do have the potential to be brave. I'm a very proud Welsh girl. I'm very proud that we are trying things to be different, and important that we share the work that we're doing. As I said before, it's important for us to develop those core values as well. And our core values as a school are honesty, kindness and respect. And these really are for everybody. Those clear lines of communication enable those core values to be realised within our school. So we also know that things can happen unexpectedly. So back in March 2020, we were actually waiting for Estyn, who are our inspectorate in Wales, to arrive. And the morning our inspection should have started, it was cancelled because of COVID. And a few days later, we went into our national lockdown. Crucially, we didn't change them. We really carried on doing, even in lockdown, even through blended learning, we maintained our focus on learning. We adapted. We tweaked as everyone else had to do, but we didn't look and think, oh my gosh, we need to catch up, we need to recover, we need to react to a situation. We just took our time and we said, what do our children need? They need to be inspired, they need to be nurtured, they don't need to be filled full of information. So you can see there's big lines through catch up and recovery, because we certainly are not doing that within our school, but we are continually focusing on encouraging all of our staff and our children to thrive. It's really important that we don't look at that educational landscape post-lockdown as a time to catch up or recover, and to think that maybe schools should stay open longer, changing our holidays, but actually it's about our children learning from everything around them, really realising that curriculum is everything that we're about. And the only way we can do that is by ensuring that our staff are highly, highly trained. And I can't say that enough, really, having those high expectations to deepen that learning, to inquire, to think about those processes of learning, and to really reflect themselves then on their own ethics and behaviour and how they can help our children to thrive. So in terms of where we're going, I suppose I go right back to the beginning, and well-being is absolutely key. For me, it starts with leadership. I live the saying, put your own oxygen mask on first, and I think it's so important that we take the time as leaders to do that. You can see some muddy legs there in the picture, they are mine. Back in May 2018, I started running, so a year into headship, I needed an outlet, and running has been my thing. So in the last, in the last 4 I've run nearly 4,000 miles, done 22 half marathons, and even attempted, well, actually did, an ultra marathon. And I'm not saying that to show off, I'm saying it to show that despite all the hard work of reform and running a school is so important to take time, to lead by example. And you can see the quote from Barack Obama there about, it's not about you really can't be afraid to ask those questions, to ask for help. It's not about showing a sign of weakness. We need to show our vulnerability. We need to show courage. And I think showing vulnerability is such an important thing for us leaders to do, particularly in a point of change. For me, leadership drives behaviours, behaviours drive culture, and that cultural development is really about focusing on those things that matter, our future generations, sustainability, the world. We're not driven in our school by accountability, and it's really is having an impact on the whole community. We are research informed, and we really are brave and trying to challenge each other to think differently and to not be afraid to try something new. So I'm going to end with my favourite quote. All the staff in this school, I think, get bored of seeing it because it's on there near enough every professional learning session, but I really do love this. And I think if we really want to drive cultural change, if we want to focus on what matters, we need to make sure that we walk with the right people, that we really do keep our heads in the clouds. We think about the big picture, but we keep our feet firmly on the ground. And for me, it is absolutely what drives me is my passion for learning and making sure that we're igniting that fire within others so that our world can be better. And I think, you know, but how do we change that rhetoric? We change it through ethical reasoning, through affirming practice, and by being critically informed. My journey has been based upon that. It's been about staying true to who I am, to my core values, but also by showing that courage and showing up every day. Diolch yn fawr.